Hey guys, what is going on? It's Don here from Novaspirit Tech and welcome back to the channel. And today we are going to be installing Samba network file sharing service on our Pi hosted series. So let's get started. Now, before I begin, I do want to explain a little bit of the episode numbers that we have going on. This was originally supposed to be episode 10, and I left it in a placeholder for this. And then last week I came out with episode 11. Now, I already created a folder for this in my NAS for this episode, and then I ran into a little bit of complications. So I decided to release that other episode ahead of this one. So the episode numbers are a little backwards, but this is episode 10, and I will place it in the Pi hosted playlist as episode 10. So yeah, just for you guys who are OCD about the numbers, we didn't miss an episode. It is here. So today we're going to be installing SMB or Samba file service. This way we could share our files across the network. Now I decided to use Samba over the other protocols like NFS or AFP just because it's more widely used and it doesn't require any extra step on your computer's part to get access to it. So if I was going to use, say, NFS, which is more of a Linux type of file system, Windows were required to install that protocol to get it to work. Same goes for Mac. Mac uses Apple File Protocol. So if I was to install that service instead, Windows would have to reinstall our protocol. Same with Linux just to get it to work. Anyway, besides the point, I'm going to try to keep this as straightforward as possible, pretty easy steps. And as far as user permissions and everything, I'm going to keep it as guest. So this way it's basically open. But if you guys are interested in making just particular users for that particular guest and have their own folders and everything, it is possible with this Docker. Just I'm not going to be showing you that step, but I will leave the GitHub link to the Docker's developer, and he shows you the steps on how to create extra users, point them to a different folder, tons of stuff like that. So it's not too hard, but I will be explaining all the steps that I did and the mistakes I made on why this took so long and everything. So let's jump into it. To jump into my desktop, actually I wanted to do this experiment. If I typed in Pi hosted right now, my GitHub is first. Look at that, and all my series. Okay, I'm on the top of the search, top of the chain. Okay, I did do some changes over here. Actually, Robert did a lot of changes over here where we actually moved the template to a new folder. So basically in the new template folder, this is the original spot. We have now an ARM32 version and ARM64 version, just so if you are using a 64 like Ubuntu, you can pop into the 64-bit version and it will have maybe more libraries than we do have on the 32-bit that doesn't support 32-bit on there. And the original location of the Pi hosted _ template, this will still be here because a lot of you guys are still pulling from this JSON file. And I will be keeping all these three updated as we go along. So if you do and get a chance, just update it to a new template. And eventually we're going to move a lot of stuff around. But for now, we're going to keep it on a new template. Next up, we have the Docker developer right here. And as I was saying earlier before, if you wanted to learn how to create new users, you could just scroll down and like he kind of got an example right here as far as what to do to create new users, what folder to share, and you could point them to different folders as well. So you could actually set up different users right through his command over here. And I would definitely check out the issue boards because they have a better understanding of how to create the users and what you could do. So you could scroll through here and figure out more of if you're running into problems or anything. All right, so jumping into our portainer, obviously, again, I was just explaining, remember to change this to the ARM32 JSON file. You don't have to now, but eventually that's going to be a thing. Head over to your app templates. We're going to go over to Samba, and that's the container. Now, before I deploy it, I am going to explain a few things that I did to this and one of the headaches that I had. Now, originally, when I was configuring this file, I thought everything was supposed to be colon. And that was my mistake for not really reading this section over here, because I would go through and I would just see it and I automatically think these are colons. That's what my brain sees, but they're all semicolons and everything just screwed me up because I kept thinking it was colons instead of semicolons. But yes, for here, I'm going to create a guest user. So guest user with the password guest, and remember to use the semicolon to separate it. Then I have everything else as default. Now, if you show in the advanced option, the folder is heavily influenced by the Pi hosted series. So we are going to be using portainer/downloads. And that's where we have our J downloader going to, we have our torrents going to, we have the file server going to, or the file service, a file manager going to there. So I kind of just pointed to that location. You could change this to whatever you want, but that's the main thing on the default setup. Now the container, you gotta keep it on /share, so don't need to change that. These ports do need to be accessed, so don't change these either because Windows use all these ports. Once you change these ports, you're not gonna be able to hit it. So keep 139 and 445. And that is about it for setting this up. I'm gonna explain a little bit what I did in the command line, just so I was able to get this working for Windows as well, and I'll just explain everything. But let's deploy this. Now, deploying this does not take long at all. The deployment process, I think the file's only about 70 megabytes, but the startup process for this particular Docker takes a while. So nothing I could do about that. I saw it on the issue boards. It's gonna be like that as well. I'm gonna pop into here and kind of show you a few things on what I did. Now, first off, I'm gonna go into duplicate and edit. And in here, we have this one command. So this will actually tell what you're going to be seeing. So portainer is the command or the name of the share that you're going to see. What the file is that you're sharing. So it's going to be /share. So you can name this to whatever you want. So the word portainer could be changed to Don's network or whatever you want. This could be changed. Don't change this next one. Then we have permissions here. Yes for browsable, no for read-only, yes for guest access. And we're gonna capture this to the guest user. So remember we made that environmental variable right over here called user guest. That has to be linked to this one. So if you are making a different username, so if you're changing that environmental variable from pi to, username pi and the password, you will have to go back into the command over here and change this to pi and redeploy. Now this other command at the end is mainly just for Windows. Without this command, Windows will not mount the share because it's in a guest anonymous mode and Windows no longer allow that. So it has to be prompted for a username and password. That little command right there will force it to prompt for a username and password. And obviously the username and password we have is guest. And that is about it. If you understand this a little bit, this kind of gives you an idea of how it works. And if you want to create new users or change the user, you just change it over here. Now, as far as the environment, again, if you want to change the folder, volumes. If you want to change a folder to a different location, that's where you would change it. Now, we're not done here. It is booted up. Everything is working. Let me get back out to the containers area right over here. You still see it say starting. Here's the thing. It constantly have this last tree NT status access denied. I don't know what this is. I've actually read the issue boards and they have the same issue, which is causing this to say unhealthy. Even though it is healthy and it's working perfectly fine, this shows up. And this is caused by that little command that I did with for Windows only access. Once I put that in, it causes this to come up and create it to say unhealthy, even though it works perfectly fine. And you'll get some lag outputs and stuff like that throughout the day saying that it's access denied. I don't know how to fix it. I'm just gonna have to wait for them to update it to fix that prompt, but otherwise it works perfectly fine. Now, the last thing we have to do, technically we just deployed and then we just have to do one more thing, which is give permission. Well, I'm gonna head over to my Raspberry Pi shell or shell in a box and pop in here. And we have to change one more thing, which is the folder permission. Right now it's locked to root and only root access can access it and write to that file. So what you need to do is, you see how it's green right now? That is because I changed that permission to 777, which is not the greatest thing and not the best thing to do, but for this instance, I'm just gonna allow it. What we need to do is do sudo chmod 777 and then downloads. Actually, you know what? If you got subfolders in there, we're gonna have to do -r so it does recursive. Once you hit that, it's gonna change all the files inside to allow for 777 permission. And since I already did it, I don't need to do it again. Then this will allow anybody to read and write into that folder. Once you're done with that permission changing, that's it. You're all set. All you have to do is pop over into any way to look it up. So I'm going to go over to here and I'm going to enter the server address. So it's SMB 192.168. And the folder we named it is called Portainer. Hit enter. Now it's going to ask me for username and password, which we are forced to do guest, and connect. And there we go. We have all our folders here. And this is the same thing that you would find if you were to go into my file manager. And now I'm accessing directly from my Linux box. Transfer rate is all right because it's a Raspberry Pi. There is some limited connections to it. So if I was to copy this over to my desktop, I think it does about like 60 or 70. Let me wait until that pops up. 60 or 70 megabytes to copy over. Well, in this case, it's only 40. So something's a little bit low. But anyway, it does work. And if I was to pop over to my Windows Server box, this is the same box that I run my Space Engineer server. So I'm going to go over here, open folder, point it to the same location, 192.168.92. Oh, Portainer. There you go. It pops up with the credentials for that IP address. And it's guest. And there we go, Portainer. You can map the folder if you want. And if you go in, it's going to be the same stuff. And here's my little ISOs that I copied over. Let me see if I copied this from here. Copy. And paste it onto my desktop. Let's see what speeds I get over here. Come on. I know you could do more. This is not all you're doing. There we go. Now it's going up. Something's odd going on where it's like causing the speed to go up and down. Might be running something in the background. But yeah, I'm getting about 80, 90 transferring from Windows machine. And it should be similar to Linux. I probably just didn't give it enough time to kind of calculate. But it does have these weird dips in here. Anyway, that is about it. Again, if you wanted to play around with adding more permissions, changing the folder around, just remember to change the permissions for that folder. And you could add the users through the web console, and I'll leave a link to his GitHub so you can follow along with his instructions on adding multiple users for multiple folders. If you guys have any other suggestions for the Pi hosted series, also let me know down in the comments below. Now, if you guys are new to this channel, consider subscribing and also hitting that bell notification icon so you know when the next video is going to be out. And as I say in my nerd cave, hack till it hurts.